Philosophically speaking, naturalism is the view that all that exists is the natural. There is no supernatural. And usually that's explained in terms of everything being physical. There's no room for non-physical kinds of things. There are some variations, that have been offered. For example, that yes, there could be some emergent mental kinds of things like thoughts or beliefs or desires, things like that. But if so, they depend completely for their existence upon the physical, like upon the brain. And they themselves don't have causal powers. Really, the physical is what's doing all the work. So on that kind of view, too, there is no room for things like a mind or a soul or angels or God, for sure, on that kind of view. Naturalism as a worldview dominates the academy these days, and it dominates governmental policy making, as well as much of the media. It is the worldview that informs our educational system at the elementary and secondary levels, as well. And often we see this, being worked out in the sciences, the hard sciences, where it is commonplace, for people to think that it is science that gives us knowledge. It has the corner of the market, if you will, on knowledge. But other disciplines, like the humanities and social sciences, if they're to give us knowledge, they have to operate as hard sciences. So naturalism then ends up getting worked out in terms of the sciences giving us knowledge, whereas these other areas are left almost up to us. They give us opinions and preferences. This is called the fact-value split, and it's something that affects the church and broader culture in major ways, because things like ethics and religion, are thought to be just personal preferences or opinions, not something you can have knowledge about. Is that really true? And that's one of the things we're going to look at in this seminar. We're going to look at and assess the philosophical view of naturalism from several different sorts of angles, one of which in particular is one of my particular interests. That is, can naturalism really give us knowledge? And I'm going to argue that it cannot. That actually, based upon what naturalism says is real, we cannot have knowledge. And so naturalism actually undermines itself. But we'll look at other kinds of arguments against naturalism too. And in addition to that, we're also going to look at its impact upon the church. Because I think that this is far more extensive than many of us have come to realize. Naturalism leads to, I think, in many ways, a practical atheism, as though God is treated as irrelevant to our daily lives, even though we know God exists and we may know different things, theologically and biblically. Nonetheless, in terms of our expectations for God to show up in our daily lives, I think we can live as practical atheists. So naturalism has shaped us in various ways. And if we look at the historical impact, down through our history in the West and in this country in particular, we can see the shaping influences upon our evangelical forebearers even in some subtle ways that live with us and affect us today. I think Gandalf from Lord of the Rings said it well. Naturalism is the doom of our times. And it's something that we have to vigorously contend with, both for the sake of broader culture, but also for Christianity, in this culture and in the West. So we're going to dig into both of these kinds of issues, naturalism's impact on culture, as well as in the church, in the seminar I'm going to be holding here on Biola's campus October 4th and 5th. And I hope you can register for this. You can check that out at apologeticsevents.com. So I hope you'll be able to attend the seminar and learn more about naturalism.